In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth.
Hi, this is Pastor Joseph San Jose ng Open Table Metropolitan Community Church. And Pasko na naman. Niloloko nga nila ako na this is the Queen's message for Christmas. Now, I think this is the third time that I'm giving a Christmas message. I think nag-start nga kami 2016, and I really don't know what. At first, initially, I was having a hard time to come up with this year's Christmas message. Pero tulad nga ng ating Miss Universe, ng ating Queen, na si Catriona, let's look at the silver lining. Ano ba yung silver lining na yan? Sabi mo na ito po ba? Foil ba yan? So, let's look at the silver lining, but it is not so that we can turn our eyes away from the suffering and the pain that is in reality in our world, in our country, but that together with the suffering and the pain, there is something good and there is something beautiful in the world, and that it is worth caring for. It is worth living for. It's worth fighting for. And that the beauty in it is that, and this is in the Gospels, that the presence of God is amongst those who are suffering, the poor and those who are in pain. That God is indeed in the slums, in the backwaters, and in the undesirable places of our world. Ang kwento ng Pasko ay ang kwento ng Diyos na umiibig at kumakalinga para sa ating lahat. At sa pag-ibig at pagmamalasakit na iyon, kanyang ibinigay ang kanyang sarili. God, the gift of God was God becoming human. That God became human and dwelt not just among us, but God dwelling with those that this world have rejected and the world has forgotten. This is the greatest gift of God. God becoming one of us, becoming poor, being born in a manger. So ngayong ng Pasko, tayo ay nagbibigayan ng mga regalo, kaliwat kanan na exchange gifts. But majority of the time, we are giving each other gifts as a form of courtesy. The British, courtesy. No? Masabi lang ba na tayo ay nagbigay? Nagbibigay tayo ng regalo kasi maaari boss natin, kailangan magbigay ng regalo, or pwede naman tayo yung boss, so kailangan magbigay sa mga subordinates natin, or kailangan magbigay ng regalo sa biyenan, no? para maganda ang papel natin kay mother-in-law, kay father-in-law, or giving gifts to our friends. Masabi lang na hindi natin sila nakalimutan. And that we give gifts that nobody actually wants and nobody actually needs. It's very rare that we actually give gifts that people want and people need. At the same time, tayo rin naman, di ba? Oftentimes, we receive gifts that we don't want and we don't need. Yung iba nga sa atin, nire-recycle pa yung regalo. No? Pagtanggap natin yung regalo, hindi natin bet, i-regalo din natin sa iba. Di ba? Recycling of gifts. So, in this season of giving, And where, actually, sabi nila, I don't know where I read this, na tumataas daw ang sense of charity and giving ng mga tao pag Pasko. So in this season of giving, let us remember what it was about. What is the greatest gift that was? And again, that is the greatest gift is the gift of care. The gift of care. Care and compassion, as told to us in the story of Jesus. Sabi ko nga kanina, God became flesh because God cared. God cared, and God continues to care for us. So much so that, as I've said, God became flesh, ate with us, ate with tax collectors, prostituted women, touching lepers, healing the sick, eating with those that the people consider to be undesirable. The greatest gift is the gift of care. And whenever we care, that is when we say that God cares. That is when God is able to care through us in this world today. When we share ourselves to those that Jesus once cared for, God continues to care in the world. Because God showed us the way of care as Jesus did. At sa ating bansa nga, no? Sa ating bansa at sa mundo ngayon na laganap ang violence at ang kamatayan, sa pagkalat ng fake news at mga trolls, pagkakahati-hati ng ating bansa, sa war on drugs na ang nangangamatay lang naman at ang patuloy na biktima ay ang mahihirap, at marami pang ibang issue tulad ng patuloy na paglobo ng HIV and AIDS, no? Ang numbers of infection, ang para bang umaatras yung ikot ng mundo. Hanggang ngayon, ang refugee crisis sa Syria, sa Yemen, the war in Yemen, ay hindi pa rin natatapos. Kailan lang nabasa ko sa isang article that there's about 300 transgender women killed for 2018, murdered in 2018. And sa 300 na yun, I'm sure marami pa ang hindi naisama sa bilang na yun. Hindi pa kasama ang other LGBT people who have been tortured, killed, murdered in different in other places in the world. And andyan din yung biglang pagsilakbo, no? Pagkalat muli at paglaganap muli ng mga ultranationalists, mga white supremacists, mga Nazi, neo-Nazis. So it is as if the world is regressing back. Tumitindi ang violence. And even right now, in the place where Jesus was born, some 2,000 plus years ago, there is great violence among the Palestinian people in the Palestinian lands, and particularly in Bethlehem. So do we ask ourselves, does God care? Does God continue to care? But the question is not really whether God cares, because we know that God does care. God showed us the way. But the question is, are we able to be channels of God's care for the so many people in the world? Can we be in solidarity to those people and communities that Jesus once cared for? Well, not really just cared for, but to the people and communities that Jesus continues to care even today. So as our sense of giving and sharing is amplified this season, and as we enjoy our time with our family and friends, exchanging gifts, hopefully giving and receiving gifts that we need and we want. I hope we are able to remember what is the most significant gift there is, and that is the gift of care. The gift of care as we remember Jesus, the one who showed us the way. So I wish you all a blessed Christmas time with you and your family, and that I hope you will be a blessing to others.